Blue Stool number 38. That's you, Blue.
Thank you very much, Chuck. My talk is entitled Self and Community, 3 Black Women and Me. Most of you know me as the founding dean of the core division. Some of you might know me as a baker or a lover of chocolate. I was hired to design, implement, and revise the core curriculum 11 years ago, and we have done a lot of work in those 11 years. However, most of you don't know me as a scholar. I was trained and earned tenure prior to coming to Champlain in the field of Black women writers. I published 3 books in this field. It is not my lived experience as a white woman, but it is my area of academic experience. And so I thought today I would share with you 3 stories of Black women who have inspired me over the course of my life. And they are personal stories. So you'll learn a story and you'll learn a little bit about me along the way. Why did I choose to study Black women writers way back in graduate school? I did so because I was drawn to themes of endurance, to struggle, to quiet courage, and particularly to triumph over adversity. My particular focus was on Black motherhood and especially enslaved motherhood. So you'll hear a little bit about that today. 3 stories, key to who I am and key to myself in community. First person I'm going to talk about is a woman named Beaulieu. Rita Dove, Pulitzer Prize winning poet, also poet laureate of the United States, published a volume of poetry in 1987 called Thomas and Beaulieu, based on her maternal grandparents. Beaulieu was her maternal grandmother. Beaulieu, it's 2 sides of a marriage. All the Thomas poems come first, all the Beaulieu poems come second in the volume. Her poems are focused on domesticity, on motherhood, on the maternal. I was a new mother as I was reading these poems 22 years ago. And what I was particularly struck as I had studied Black women academically in these stories of triumph and these stories of endurance was how insecure Beaulieu was as a mother. She was frightened by being a mother, as was I. And so I'm going to share one poem with you so that you understand Beaulieu's perspective. It's called Motherhood, aptly enough. She dreams the baby is so small she keeps misplacing it. It rolls from the hutch and the mouse carries it home. It disappears with his shirt in the wash. Then she drops it and it explodes like a watermelon, eyes splitting. Finally, they get to the countryside. Thomas has the baby in a sling. He's strewing rice along the road while the trees chitter with tiny birds. In the meadow to their right, 3 men are playing rough with a white wolf. She calls warning, but the wolf breaks free and she runs. The rattle rolls into the gully. Then she's there and tossing the baby behind her, listening for its cry as she straddles the wolf and circles its throat, counting until her thumbs push through to the earth. White fur seeps red. She is hardly breathing. The small, wild eyes grow opaque with confusion and shame, like the child's. So really quite a portrayal there of ambivalent motherhood, which struck me as really odd for these Black women who had been such powerful maternal figures. So I spent a portion of my early academic career exploring Rita Dove's view on motherhood, as well as my own experience being a new mother and being ambivalent and feeling anxious about this. So one of the universal themes of Black women. Part 2 of my talk. Part 1 was motherhood. Part 2 is transition. I'm going to tell you the story of William and Ellen Craft. And we have a little visual here. Ellen on this side, William over on this side. William was a dark-skinned slave. Ellen was a light-skinned slave. They fell in love. They married as best slaves could do in 1848, and they decided they needed to escape from Macon, Georgia, and try to become free. How did they do this? They did this because Ellen could pass. She could pass as white. And so they took a train in plain sight, 1,000 miles. With Ellen dressed as a man, her arm in a sling because she was illiterate and she was afraid she would be asked to write something, and with William by her side as her servant, her slave, so that they would remain together. There was too much danger if they ever were to be separated, and him travel with the slaves and her travel with the gentlemen of the time. Quite a lot happened to them on this journey. Just a couple of things in the interest of time. At one point on the train, she found herself sitting next to a friend of her master, and she feigned deafness at that time because he kept trying to engage her in conversation. And so this disability for a second time, the arm in the sling and then the deafness, was protection against interaction with whites. A captain in Charleston complimented Ellen on her, quote, very attentive boy. Right? This is her husband, and who was masquerading as her slave. During the trip, a slave trader offered to buy William from her, and a military officer scolded Ellen for saying thank you to her slave. A ticket seller insisted on seeing proof that Ellen owned William, but someone intervened, and ultimately they were able to go on their way. In a Virginia railway station, a white woman confronted William, mistaking him for her own runaway slave. And in Baltimore, they were threatened because she didn't have the proper proof of ownership for William. But ultimately, again, that moment passed, and someone told a clerk, obviously this man, Ellen, is not well, and so it's a pity to stop him. Let's let them carry on their journey. So this is quite a story of passing. And I always think of this story around my coming to Champlain. I was a faculty member when I was hired to be the dean, and I had to pass into this world of senior administration, of authority, of privilege in a very different sort of way. So that's my link to William and Ellen Craft. My third is the story of Harriet Jacobs. She's a beautiful woman. She's old in this portrait here. She was born in about 1813 in eastern North Carolina. I have saved my best story for last here. This is a story of strength that inspires me daily. It is also a Me Too story for today. I'm not going to give you all the details, but Harriet found herself at a very young age harassed by Dr. Flint, her white master. He was the father of a young white girl who technically owned her. And he began, quote, whispering foul things into my ear when she was 14. What she did was, she made a decision as a very young woman to control the terms of intimacy. And she first fell in love with a free black man who was not allowed to buy her. And so she said, okay, I'm going to be in charge of my own sexuality. And what she did was, she entered into sexual relations with a white lawyer in town, hoping that she would get pregnant, that the white doctor, her master, who was harassing her, would lose interest once she was pregnant and leave her alone, and that the white man would buy her children and set them free. None of these things happened. She was harassed for many years by Dr. Flint. She had 2 children with Mr. Sands, the white lawyer. But what she did in result is truly phenomenal in American history. For 6 years and 11 months, she went into hiding in a small garret over her grandmother's home. Think about where you were 6 years and 11 months ago. That's how long she stayed in hiding. She took a little borer at one point and drilled a hole up in this attic so that she could watch her children, whom her grandmother was raising, play in the yard in their home. She had to be silent. Again, she was on the eastern coast of North Carolina. If you know what summers are like and you think about attics, those were the conditions she endured. There were mice, rats, insects, all sorts of things. 6 years and 11 months. The garret was 9 feet long, 7 feet wide, and 3 feet at its highest point. And that is where this black slave woman lived so that she could remain close to her children. Ultimately, she escaped in mid-June of 1842 and headed north. Even then, she had to rely on a benevolent white woman to purchase her freedom and set her free. Even after all of the efforts that she went through, she could not ascertain her own freedom. A kind white person had to buy her, which really chafed her. She was not happy about that at all. But she, to me, was inspiration for my own scholarship, for my own family life, for the courage it took to come here to Champlain and launch this incredible adventure we have called the Corps. And now, as I contemplate leaving and beginning a new phase of my life, I truly take daily inspiration from Harriet Jacobs. She says at the end of her narrative, it's one of only 10% of slave narratives written by women, "My story ends with freedom, not in the usual way with marriage." Harriet Jacobs always lived an unconventional life. To conclude, I think audiamos could be the motto of these three and many other Black women. They are my role models. What started as a scholarly enterprise for me, a scholarly interest, has become deeply personal. Audiamos is one of the greatest gifts that Champlain has given me over the past 11 years. It is the gift that I will take away into the future. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.